Hello everyone and welcome back to another Rainbow Six Siege. Definitely I'd say a guide video, and this one is focused on what makes a beginner-friendly operator. So the operators that I will be using as examples in this video, as one beginner-friendly defender and one beginner-friendly attacker, you'll probably expect definitely the defender if you've watched any guides on YouTube or wherever regarding beginner operators for you to play. But what actually makes a beginner-friendly operator? That's what I want to tackle here. And what I've managed to boil the whole thing down to is 3 separate criteria that the operator has to be beginner-friendly. First, they have to have an easy-to-understand and easy-to-use gadget. Second, they have to have good guns, by which I mean manageable recoil and decent overall stats. 3, they have to have a clear operator role, by which I mean they have to have a very clear thing that they need to do in a standard round that a beginner could see from their gadget and be like, okay, yeah, I can do this. So, moving on to the examples. On defense, as you probably do expect, it is Rook, the poster child for the beginner operators in Siege, I would say. His gadget is following the first criteria of being very easy. It is very easy. At the start of the round, you just place your armor panels and equip one. And if you want to get really advanced, you can leave a ping on your armor panels or even open up your mic and say, hey, grab your armor. Naturally, this is so easy to do, anyone could do it. It adds the bonus of meaning that once you've placed your armor, you can focus entirely on watching what other people on your team are doing, looking out for drones, doing the other things that if you were playing someone like Jaeger, for example, who has to place barbed wire or his shield alongside his ADSs, and then he has to probably go off-site. Jaeger, in comparison, has a lot extra he has to do, in addition to reinforcing and looking out for drones. And that gives you very little time as a beginner to observe your surroundings and observe your team, which you really do want to do to learn from them. Whereas Rook, you place your armor, equip one, boom, you're done. You're free. You can do whatever you want, see what needs reinforcing, etc, etc. So great easy gadget. Then, going on to the second criteria of having a good easy gun, he has the MP5. The MP5 has very manageable recoil. Now this is a key criteria in my eyes for having an easy beginner-friendly weapon on an operator. If the recoil is overly aggressive, it has a lot of kick, say for example Buck's assault rifle or even IQ's Commando, the 552 Commando, that has quite aggressive recoil when you use it if you're using the ACOG. And so I would not recommend those operators to beginners, to be honest, because you don't want to be fighting your gun for kills in addition to trying to learn the game. That's just going to be frustrating. So in comparison, the MP5 has very easy to control recoil. It's more or less a very slow and very gradual climbing pattern, very standard, and you counter that just by slowly dragging your mouse down. And in short bursts, it's a-okay fine anyway. So the recoil on the MP5 is fantastic for beginners. And because it's so fantastic recoil-wise, I actually think, as a beginner, you can just slap the ACOG on the MP5, which, by the way, is one of the main reasons why Rook, Doc, Echo, and I guess at this point Maestro are so powerful on defense. It's because they can equip an ACOG, whereas every other defender can't. And this means that they can hold down longer positions on site or off site that other defenders can't really do because they don't have the zoom capability of the ACOG scope. So I would actually recommend, if you are playing Rook as a beginner, do just slap on the ACOG, unless you're really having trouble with the recoil, in which case I would recommend going with one of the other 3 sights, the red dot, holographic, or the reflex. But yeah, if you're finding the recoil to be okay, then go for the ACOG, and this gives you a very easy entry into learning how to control recoil whilst zoomed in, which, by the way, does make recoil control slightly harder. But, as mentioned, the advantages are very, very present, so if you can learn it early, then I definitely recommend that you do. And moving on to the third operator criteria for being beginner friendly, this is the easy to understand operator role. And as Rook, your role is to stick close to the site, buff your team with your armor panels, and wait for the enemy to get close, really. This is the playstyle of being an anchor. You hold down the site, you find a safe position where you're not exposed from too many angles, where you can just look out one of the entrances, say, from behind a car or something like that. Basically somewhere where most of your body is covered up, so you're less exposed. and you just wait for someone to enter. As an anchor, I would say do keep your ears open for sound, as a lot of the round, if your roamers are doing their job properly, you will not actually see people, but you will hear what's happening. When you get to higher levels of play, more people will use their mics and give callouts, so you'll have much more information as an anchor then. But until that point, as a beginner, you will be listening to see what's actually happening, and if you hear shooting or explosions closer to your position, then you know possibly what direction to face, what entrance to cover, and yeah, as mentioned, that is a very easy role to grasp. So, with these 3 criteria ticked off with Rook, I'm also going to give the quick bonus that Rook as an operator is guaranteed to help the team even if you die early, which, as a beginner, we have to face facts, you are more likely to die really early. Even if you're on site and playing safe, possibly someone uses vertical destruction, blows open the ceiling above you, and just headshots you from above, and you're dead for the rest of the round. Yes, that's gonna suck, and yes, you will get fused probably to death quite a few times, and various other gadgets, but at the end of the day, if you've placed your armor panels and people have actually used them, then you've contributed to your team's defense. So, moving on, for the offensive, beginner-friendly operator of my choice, I went with Thatcher. Back onto the first criteria for a beginner-friendly operator, an easy-to-understand gadget, we have the EMP. So when he throws this in an AoE around it once it explodes, any electronic gadget is either destroyed or disabled. It depends on the gadget, but most of the time all you have to know is that he will be destroying things that the defenders have placed, and that is very powerful, obviously. All you have to do is get close to the defensive site, throw your EMPs at various points nearby. Hopefully you destroy some maybe Jaeger ADSs, Kapkan traps, lesion mines, etc, and that's your job done. Although I will add the caveat that if your team does have a hard breacher, which, by the way, is anyone who can breach through reinforced walls, so Thermite or Hibana, you will want to stick with them and see where they want to breach, as sometimes they will be unable to breach a reinforced wall because there will be a bandit wire on it, which electrifies the wall and prevents them from triggering their gadget, or a mute jammer there. So if you're there and you see that they're having trouble, just throw your EMP at the wall that they want to blow up, and once your EMP explodes, they should be good to go. Clearly quite an easy gadget. Not so easy as Rook's armor panels, but definitely very easy to understand and can have a very powerful effect on a game because they're AoE, and you have 3 of them. You've got a lot of room for error. Moving on to the second criteria, having a easy weapon. Thatcher has 2 very viable choices, in my opinion. The L85A2 is the one that most people will go with, as it has more damage than the AR33, but the L85A2 for a beginner might have a bit too much recoil. Personally, I find it very manageable, but I've been playing the game for quite a while at this point, so as a beginner, try the 2 weapons out in different matches maybe, and if you find the L85A2 okay, then stick with it, and if you find the recoil to be a bit too much, then by all means you can switch over to the AR33, which is quite a bit easier with its recoil pattern and a very solid assault rifle, but do bear in mind that it does have the downside of having slightly less damage than the L85A2. So again, very easy weapon set to understand. Unlike Rook, who has 1 weapon, who I would advise you to use the MP5 over both other weapons, with Thatcher you can go for either the L85A2 or the AR33, and it's a-okay fine. Moving on to the third criteria for a beginner-friendly operator, we have an easy-to-understand operator role. And with Thatcher, your role is to use your gadget to remove the other team's electronic gadgets. As mentioned, this is very easy to do. Get close to the site if you can, do it safely, and throw your EMPs. You'll probably hit some stuff, as it's a very rare game where there isn't a Legion or a Bandit or a Jaeger or many other operators in play on the defender's team. As you can see, a very easy to understand operator role. And for the bonus for Thatcher, Thatcher teaches the importance of teamwork and synergy between operator roles. So as mentioned, Thatcher is particularly powerful when combined with Thermite or Hibana, and this is not by any means the only example of operator synergy or operator role synergy in Siege. So this very basic example is a great introduction to teamwork, keeping in mind where your team are, and what they want to do, and therefore where perhaps you should be relative to your team, which I think are very important concepts to understand in Siege. So the earlier you get to grips with this, similar to my reasoning for using the ACOG on Rook's MP5, these powerful concepts of teamwork and having a zoom on your defender weapon, the earlier you get to grips with them, the better the long term. And that's this video. Hopefully that has been a useful breakdown of what makes a beginner-friendly operator. These were my examples, Rook and Thatcher for defense and offense respectively, but you can use the criteria I laid out of an easy-to-use gadget, manageable and easy-to-use guns that are also decent overall stat-wise, and a clear operator role, those 3 criteria, and find other operators in Siege that are very beginner-friendly, and therefore perhaps you as a beginner might want to try out. So as always guys, if you want to watch more of my videos, by all means, feel free to drop a sub and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.